All right, welcome to this explainer on the Siege of Alesia, the battle that broke Gaul. We're going to dive right in and set the scene for one of the absolute most decisive military conflicts in ancient history. Seriously, we're talking about a single, fortified hillside where the entire geopolitical future of Europe was decided. It's not just a battle, it's this massive clash of wills that literally reshaped the borders of the ancient world. I want to just immediately drop you into the chilling stakes here. It's the autumn of 52 BC. Inside the walls of a hilltop fortress, you have this charismatic chieftain, Vercingetorix, and his people who are quite literally starving to death. And waiting right outside the walls, the highly ambitious Julius Caesar, an undefeated general who simply refuses to lose. It's the ultimate deadly standoff between Gallic unification and Roman ambition. Now, what's really fascinating here is the timeline. The path to this war escalated with terrifying speed. Before Rome, Gaul was fiercely independent, right? Mostly broken up into dozens of rival tribes. Caesar arrives in 58 BC looking for glory, but his brutality just breeds intense resistance. So by 53 BC, Vercingetorix steps up and pulls off the impossible. He unites these deeply divided tribes. And just 1 year later, that massive unification forces our ultimate showdown at Alesia. Section 1. The Scorched Earth Strategy. Let's move to the next phase and see how this builds into an escalating chess match between two undeniably brilliant leaders. So Vercingetorix knew he couldn't beat the heavily armored Roman legions in open combat. Well, at least not initially. Instead, he executes this devastating scorched earth strategy. He actually asked his people to make a massive sacrifice, burning their own homes, their own crops, and granaries. The goal was simple but completely ruthless: deny Rome any supplies and starve the superior Roman military machine out before a single sword was even drawn. To really grasp those extreme, desperate measures, we have to understand the sheer brutality the Gauls were facing. 1 million. According to Caesar's own accounts, over 1 million Gauls were killed during his earlier campaigns, and just as many were enslaved. Think about that scale. That is the staggering, deep trauma that pushed these tribes to literally burn their own lands just to stop him. Section 2. The Trap and Roman Engineering. This brings us right to the hilltop fortress of Alesia, where Vercingetorix thought he was safe, but was about to experience the terrifying scale of Roman engineering. Rather than storming the imposing walls of the fortress, Caesar opted for containment. He ordered a complete circumvallation. We're talking an astonishing 11-mile ring of timber ramparts, trenches, and watchtowers, all built in just a matter of weeks by his soldiers. It was specifically designed to completely trap the 80,000 Gallic warriors inside. And Caesar's engineers didn't just build walls, They built a macabre, inescapable killing field. Pretty much every inch of ground outside that wall was a trap. They planted rows of sharpened stakes and iron hooks buried in the earth. They even dug these concealed pits filled with spikes that the legionaries grimly nicknamed lilies. I mean, if you charged the Roman line, the ground itself would literally tear you apart. Now, before that deadly ring fully closed, Vercingetorix realized the immense danger and made a desperate, high-stakes gamble. Under the cover of darkness, he sent thousands of his cavalry riders breaking through a gap in the Roman lines. Their mission? Ride out to the rest of Gaul and beg the remaining tribes to form a massive relief army. But here is where you really see the strategic brilliance of Caesar. Anticipating this exact move, he didn't retreat. No, he ordered his exhausted men to dig again. He constructed a staggering 13-mile contravallation. This was a second ring of defenses facing outward, designed solely to protect his own besieging troops from whatever relief army was coming to rescue the fortress. Just imagine the claustrophobic nightmare the Roman legions were facing now. You've got roughly 60,000 Roman soldiers sandwiched tightly between two massive, incredibly hostile forces. There are 80,000 desperate, starving warriors locked inside that inner ring, and an unimaginably massive 250,000-strong relief army marching directly toward their backs. Section 3. Battle on two fronts. The tension completely explodes as that gargantuan relief army finally appears on the horizon, creating a razor-thin line between Roman victory and total annihilation. But before the final clash, we have to soberly reflect on the horrific human cost here. Inside Alesia, food supplies had totally collapsed. So the local Mondubii tribe actually expelled their own women and children from the fortress, hoping the Romans would let them pass or feed them. Caesar completely refused. These innocent civilians were tragically left trapped in the no man's land between the two armies, slowly starving to death because both leaders ruthlessly held their ground. Looking at the numbers here, the sheer, terrifying math of the battlefield becomes crystal clear. Think about being a Roman legionary on that wall. You're outnumbered more than 5-1 in total. You're fighting in shifts, day and night, desperately trying to hold an 11-mile inner wall and a 13-mile outer wall, all at the exact same time. It's truly one of the most extraordinary defensive stands in military history. But, every defense has a flaw. And on the final day of fighting, the Gauls found theirs. There was this hill on the northwest side of the Roman lines, where the terrain made the walls incredibly difficult to defend. 60,000 of the very best Gallic warriors, led by a chieftain named Vercingetorix, massed at this geographic weak point, and the Roman lines began to severely buckle. With the wall on the verge of total collapse, Roman commander Titus Labienus sent an urgent plea for reinforcements. The entire siege was literally about to be lost. So, Caesar makes an all-or-nothing gamble. He throws on his famous scarlet cloak, making absolutely sure every single one of his exhausted men could see him from across the battlefield. And he personally leads his reserve cavalry directly into the chaotic fray. And this is the tactical climax of the entire war. Caesar's cavalry swept right around and struck the attacking Gallic force from behind. This shocking sight of Roman cavalry suddenly appearing where none should logically be, it completely shattered the Gauls' morale. Their ferocious assault instantly collapsed into a panicked, full rout, ending the two-front threat forever. Section 4. The Surrender and Legacy. With his allies routed and his people starving, Vercingetorix realizes the dream of a free Gaul has died on this hillside. The ancient sources describe this deeply cinematic and just overwhelmingly tragic moment. Knowing there wasn't going to be a second relief force, Vercingetorix chose to end the siege himself to save what remained of his people. He rode out alone in full war regalia, circled Caesar, dismounted, and sat in absolute silence at the feet of his conqueror. The sheer brutality and discipline of Rome had permanently subjugated Gaul, completely reshaping the map of Europe forever. And for his efforts, Vercingetorix was taken to Rome, locked in a dark, miserable cell for 6 grueling years, and kept alive solely to be paraded as a trophy in Caesar's eventual triumph before finally facing his execution. Yet, the story doesn't end in that Roman cell. Today, a monumental statue of Vercingetorix stands peacefully on that very hill in France. He's remembered not merely as a defeated rebel, but as the first person who dared to try and unite a nation. So, as we absorb the immense scale of this history, it leaves us with a pretty powerful question. Is true national identity forged in the glory of victory, or in the shared trauma of a devastating defeat?